suggest some rules that we have tonight for public speaking or privilege of the floor. I want you to come up to the mic and state your name, address, and town you're from. Respect the other person's opinions. Each person can speak only once. No one can defer their time to speak to another person. There's a limit of 2 minutes to speak. Tonight we're going to cap the privilege of the floor of 30 minutes. The board is here to listen and may or may not answer any questions. If everybody understands the rules, who would like to come up first?
Diane Hazer Lombardi. I live on West Groton Road in Groton. Thank you. I'm a leaseholder in Groton. I own a small farm in West Groton that my husband and I bought in 2003, fulfilling a life dream of having enough land to grow most of our own food and share and sell the excess. Land in the country to enjoy the simple, peaceful life I always imagined is a dream come true. Around 2005, a very nice gentleman drove his pickup down my long driveway. I imagined he was lost or looking for rabbits from Rabbit Creek Farm. We have the creek, but only rabbits that may eat more vegetables than I do. Imagine my surprise when he was here to see me to inform me he had a fantastic offer for me. He was something called a landsman, and he represented Anschutz Gas Company. He informed me that unlike Connecticut, we own the minerals below our land and could earn money from leasing that land to a gas company that believed there was gas below. He explained how this was a way the United States could become energy independent from foreign oil. He assured me it was safe and plentiful. I already detested that we were constantly sending our children to foreign lands to fight, secure, and often die in countries that held all the oil and all the power. I liked the thought that we might not have to do that anymore. That it was safe and clean was the icing on the cake. The economy had not been kind to us, and the added income was not an adverse feature. I even believed my husband might be able to get a decent paying job. I admit that I really didn't want wells or trucks and new roads on my meager holding of just 25 acres. So I was glad we could add an addendum to the lease that would state no surface rights and was further assured nothing related to the work they would be doing would cross my eyes. This nice gentleman, the landsman, further informed me that they really didn't need us to sign on, as many of our neighbors were with really large parcels of land had or would be signing on. They would be able to just take the gas and I'd be none the wiser. They were really doing a big favor for us. We discussed and decided that from all we had been told, it seemed like a no-brainer, and we signed the lease. Sadly, that short phrase, no-brainer, has come back to haunt us almost daily. Since 2005, we've learned a lot. What we get is a check so small it's not worth driving to Ithaca cash, and that's the least of it. Little did I know I would end up in a revolving lease with no end that is next to impossible to cancel. What we get for our addenda is that while we may not have a well on our land, we can assuredly be a storage depot for all type of equipment and all manner of God knows what chemicals. What we learned is that we most likely will not see any of this gas, which has already gained approval for sale on the open market to the highest bidder, with a laundry list of foreign countries waiting in line to buy. What we become is that foreign country delivering the gas carrot over the heads of other countries. I don't like that. Do unto others in this case is not a good thing. We've learned about this thing called hydrofracking, and we don't like what we've learned. Yes, maybe down the road it can be done safely, but we've not reached that bend in the road. What we've learned is that all the good paying jobs will not go to guys like my husband and other unemployed men in the area, but to skilled labor shipped in from other states. We've learned that we probably can't refinance our mortgage because we never really had a legal right to sign the lease, and even our current mortgage could be in jeopardy. What we've learned that if something bad like the creek that runs through our property becomes polluted, we're up you-know-what creek without a paddle. Not the gas company, not the town, not the state, us. And what we've learned, that our only son will leave New York, with our only granddaughter, and instead of seeing her every day, we may get to see her once a year. You've heard all my selfish reasons for not wanting gas drilling in this beautiful upstate region, but there's a bigger reason for my sadness about all this. What right do I have to bring upon my neighbors such bad possibilities? None. and that there is a no-brainer. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Next, please. Is that the petition?
No,
Okay.
no. My name is Elizabeth Snyder. I live at 188 Stevens Road, McLean, right on the outer edge of the town of Groton. I have a packet for each of you that we brought at the last meeting and we ran out of time. And I'd like to read the articles. I wish we could have given them to you last month because they're very good reading. Some are quite lengthy, but they really touched on everything that some of the other speakers we've had have talked about. Risky Business, an analysis of shale gas drilling violations in Pennsylvania from 2008 to 2011. An article from the Citizens Voice newspaper article of the department from Pennsylvania, the Cabot drilling caused methane in Lenox, Pennsylvania water wells, January 2012. That's from the Department of Environmental Protection. An article from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Ohio earthquake was caused by deep disposal well for Marcellus wastewater. Another article from the Inside Climate News, February 2012. Gas drilling may be leaking twice as much gas as previously thought. The study was done by the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It was a really good article too, and very scientifically performed. Another article called Banking Developments in New York State related to hydrofracking, March 2012, and it quoted quite a few people from our own area and Tompkins County Trust. Climate Change, a shorter article by Robert Howarth and Anthony Ingraffia about methane and the greenhouse gas footprint of natural gas from shale formations, the leaking of the fresh gas, not burning it, but just the leaking that occurs at a much higher rate. Another short article about the truth about fracking. An article from Penn State called Pennsylvania Dairy Farms and the Marcellus Shale from 2007 to 2010. And it told about the changes in dairy farms there. Marcellus shale activity seemingly affecting county-level dairy production, also from Penn State, March 2012. Another article called The Big Fracking Bubble, The Scam Behind the Gas Boom by Jeff Goodell. Another article, Energy Giant Hid Behind Shells in the Land Grab. And it gives quite a bit of the financial shenanigans that many, not all, but many of the gas companies do, ways to hide their assets, ways to subdivide, ways to not have a paper trail to find out who did what, selling off some of their assets and trying to get money to refund themselves when they've already overspent on leasing. That was from Reuters. A very short article from the Ithaca Journal, February 2012, the Horseheads prostitution ring linked to the gas drilling industry. And the last one was a really good Cornell research project. It was the economic consequences of the Marcellus shale gas extraction, many key issues that help explain how it looks good, but if you look further, the economic situation could really be much worse than it is now. So you'll have lots of reading. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I've got one more for you to read. David Kalb, 171 Groton Road, Freeville. Gentlemen, this is just a quick announcement of a road use summit in Cortland, New York on May 8th, so more than a month away. This is, I don't know the actual sponsor, but it is primarily for town board members. And it is Lynn Irwin, who is the director of the Cornell Local Roads Program, will be there, as well as Mark Sweeney, who's with Whitman, Osterman, and Hanna, who is well-versed in local road use ordinances. And I think being that road use ordinances are one of the powerful tools that local municipalities can use to protect the quality of their roads, both off roads as well as more rural roads. Very important that I think one, if not more than one of you, could attend that. So I will pass this up.
We actually have those.
Great. Duplicate. Thank you.
Greg Weiland, I live on 30 Torque Road. So I'm here just to, just want to shortly do a short, just encourage you to consider, we've had a lot of talk about, we've had presentations about the physical aspects of drilling and the geology. And I just want to encourage you to think about the health consequences and the economic consequences. We have two experts at Cornell that have recently published, Robert Oswald on the health consequences from his studies in Pennsylvania, and Susan Christofferson in the Department of City and Regional Planning at Cornell. And not that you don't have too many articles, but I just want to leave you a couple articles, one from each of them. I've already talked to Dr. Oswald. He'd be happy to come and talk to us about what he's seen and he and his wife have done in Pennsylvania. And I think we can also, if you're interested, get Dr. Christofferson as well. I'm not going to hand these out individually. I'll just give these to April. And they're broken up. But you can give them to me. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Greg. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Paul Spate. I live at 481 Lafayette Road, town of Groton. So I brought my whole family down here tonight. This young person here, this is our future. This is it. And all of our children are at risk with the chemicals and the pollution from this industry and what it can bring to this area. And I just really can't imagine my life with my children moving away from me and just disrespecting me for failing to protect water. Water, at least 70% of our body is made of water. It just seems, as a parent and as a community member and as a business owner, I would be remiss in not coming down and advocating for you to please ban, with all of your power and all of your passion, this practice from coming to our beautiful, beautiful area. I've lived and traveled all over the world, and I picked this little spot after staying at the bed and breakfast that we now own, and it has changed my life. I love this place, and I totally believe that it's worth fighting for, and I so hope that you do too, because this is really our future, and my little one's future, like their grandchildren. That's who we have the responsibility to think about. People, you beautiful people, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, Paul, do you still play your instrument?
Pardon me?
Do you still play your instrument?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And second, the Travel Channel is going to be filming, or they were filming us, and that show will come out in April or May. So as a business, I would so like to avoid having that traffic and that noise in a teepee campground, listening to those trucks rumble by. Thank you.
I'm not local, so if you want to go first, I can defer to you.
Okay, I'm local. I'm Kelly Smith, married to Danny Klemaszewski. We're both Groton natives, went to Groton High School. Seen a lot of changes in the community in our lifetime. And I feel strongly enough about this to come up and speak before you today. Based on my experiences, I hope that you'll consider at least a moratorium on hydrofracking in the community. After I graduated from Cornell in 1984, I moved to Bakersfield, California, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the oil industry there. They use water to extract low-grade crude oil, and growing up in Groton, I wasn't really ready for life in Oil Town. Crime and drug use were apparent everywhere, even in the schoolyards and the parks. I lived in a community called Oildale, where I socialized and lived next to many people that worked in the oil fields. They were known as roustabouts and roughnecks, and it was a good description for them. And the pollution in the area was very apparent because when it rained, the puddles would smell like oil. I just feel that our little community is not ready for the changes that hydrofracking will bring. Besides the invasion of truck traffic and energy workers, the real issue is the introduction of carcinogens into our community. We have had our share of carcinogens in the past, and we also have, I have personally witnessed back in the 70s when Smith Corona used to dump right into the watershed. We complained to the plant, and they said that it wasn't illegal, they did it all the time, and we thought, okay, we're just high school students, so what are we to question that? And it turned out that when they left the Superfund site. We were duped at the time, and I would hate to see us become duped again. The energy companies are not really interested in what's best for this community. They're only interested in what they can get out of it. And they tell us what they want us to hear, but they leave out the negative aspects of it. They don't talk about the potential for air or water pollution, increased incidence of cancer in communities where fracking is occurring, overinflated or non-existent economic benefits to the community, and the potential for decreased property values. My husband and I have been building a house. We feel like we're in limbo at this time, not knowing whether we should put more money into our property and see the value go down if hydrofracking should happen nearby. Thanks for your time. Oh, yeah, 757 Clark Street Extension, Groton.
Hi, I'm Mike Morris from the Village. Hi there. First, I want to say I was encouraged today reading in the Ithaca Journal that Supervisor Maury, that you want to speak to some of the people who signed the petition. And there's a lot of them here in the room tonight, so if you have any questions, I bet most of us would be happy to answer them.
No, yeah, okay, Michael.
And also, I was a little disappointed that you didn't respond to my emails about holding a public forum. I don't know, maybe they're getting transferred to your junk folder or something, your
They
email
might be.
address.
They might be.
But the mayor had said that you're aware of the email exchange that we all had, and that right now that as far as he could tell, none of the village board members or the town board members were interested in holding a public forum. So I would just like you to reconsider that, because I think that there's people on both sides of this, on every side of this issue, neutral, pro, anti, whatever you want to say, that all would benefit from hearing one another in a neutral setting like this, but sort of larger, and invite the whole community to take part. Because I think people are intimidated to come to town board meetings and things like that. Because there is significant interest out there. So I think people need to be asked, sort of. And I wanted to follow up with the sort of casual discussion that I had with Mr. Scheffler, because Mr. Scheffler said that basically, when I asked what about the 90% of the people who don't hold leases, the negative aspects of fracking that we'll all have to endure, Mr. Scheffler's response was, well, they could have bought land. And
And your response to that was if you had land, you would have a lease.
No, I said I didn't blame people who signed leases, because I'm not saying that I don't know what I would do. I'm not saying I wouldn't have signed a lease. That wasn't my response to that. My response was I think that's where our conversation ended. But it truly, it's not even a viewpoint that I had considered. So, and I appreciate you just being frank about your viewpoint. And I want to thank Mr. Gamble and Mr. Scheffler for attending our recent event up at the grade school with Deborah Rogers and Sandra Steingraber, and the event in Ithaca at the library, the two of you. But that sort of expression that the other 90% could have bought land. Number one, there are people that hold land that are choosing not to lease or regret leasing because they weren't given all the facts up front. But I sort of want to ask all of you, and you don't, whether you respond or not, but is that a viewpoint that you all hold, that 90% of us have no standing, basically?
You must have taken that wrong, but I'm not recalling the exact conversation because that was, what, 3 months ago.
Right.
But I think a lot of people have a lot of rights, and we're here to protect everybody and to do what's right for the whole town.
That's good.
And I like to hear from everybody. And
Great.
Just, you know, because someone has a viewpoint doesn't mean that that viewpoint's going to overrule everybody else. Maybe that's probably what I was trying to get across. The minority doesn't always rule. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or the majority.
I can appreciate that.
We have to do what's right, whether it's majority or minority.
Right. Okay.
That's probably what I was trying to get across.
I'm happy
I
for
don't
the
recall the
clarification.
exact wording.
No, actually, I wanted to bring it up, but they ran out of time during the privilege of the floor before. So, thank you for clarifying. So anyway, since you like to hear all viewpoints, I do hope you all will consider a public forum, hosting a public forum, and inviting the community for feedback and to be able to ask you questions and get answers from you in that kind of setting, and from everybody, not just one side or the other. And then lastly, Hillary Lambert, the steward of the Cayuga Lake Watershed Network, I know she sent an email with attachments to Supervisor Morey and Town Clerk Scheffler. And if it could be made part of the public record, I can just hand you all copies.
The board does have a copy of that in your package tonight, as well as you were sent this copy of the email.
And Lynn, she's just, could I read it quickly, or? Okay. It says, I'm writing to you as steward, executive director of the Cayuga Lake Watershed Network Incorporated, a community-level grassroots group dedicated to advocating for Cayuga Lake and its watershed. Our primary focus is protecting the water quality of Cayuga Lake and the creeks that drain to it. We are taking care of our plentiful clean water resources so that they will be in good shape for our descendants to use and enjoy. I urge you to heed the leaders of Groton Resources Awareness Coalition, who will be submitting signed petitions to you at tonight's board meeting, asking that a gas drilling and fracking ban moratorium be passed in Groton. For the Cayuga Lake Watershed Network, what is at stake in your decision are protection of the clean headwater streams that start their lives in Groton's uplands, and of the main stem of Fall Creek, which traverses Groton on its way south from Lake Como, then westward through Dryden and Ithaca to Cayuga Lake. For me, as a resident of Dryden, living near Fall Creek downstream of Groton, I am relying on you to consider the wider, long-term interests of everyone who want Fall Creek to remain clean and beautiful and not to be degraded by the sediment, erosion, pipelines, gravel roads and paths, natural habitat destruction, and chemical pollutants that gas drilling and fracking activities would bring. She writes longer sentences than I do. To date, the elected leadership of towns along Fall Creek, starting with its headwaters in Summer Hill and downstream in Dryden and Ithaca, have all voted to ban gas drilling and fracking within their borders. On behalf of the future of Cayuga Lake and of all our town's residents, I request that you and your board please complete the protection of our majestic and beautiful Fall Creek and of the many small, clean headwater streams that abound in Groton by supporting Groton Resource Awareness Coalition's call for a gas drilling and fracking ban moratorium. Helped sign Hillary Lambert, Stewart Cayuga Lake Watershed Network. Thank you.
Athena Calandros, David Hakes. We own land at 119 Clark Street, Village of Groton. I stand before you with the next generation of Grotonians, right here. And we invested in land in Groton. We are landowners, proud of it. We own 8.5 acres. I happen to know that my land borders land that may be, if I understand correctly, leased. And so all I ask you is to consider what we as individuals invested in Groton. We came here 10 years ago. I waited 40 years to purchase land. I dreamed of owning land. I was raised with the idea that owning land in America, in small rural community, although I was raised in an urban environment, I dreamed of this very moment. And so when I understand that there are risks now to owning land in the Groton area, I encourage you. We don't know what the perspective is of Groton, because right now what you're witnessing and hearing is people who are opposing. I would like to hear from other landowners as well who may or may not disagree, who are confused with what the outcomes may be. I encourage you to consider having a public forum. That is the only way I can come here and really get perspective. Who agrees, who doesn't agree? And let me have an opportunity to make decisions based on fellow landowners who border my property. I want to understand their perspective, and I want to hold everyone accountable for the outcomes that happen in relationship to whatever decisions are made by you as board members and as us as landowners. And so I encourage you, let's not disappoint this generation. Okay, I want to understand all the realms of the possibilities, and I'm not getting it from the one-sided perspective that we hear tonight. I think we're loud and we are clear. I would like us, I think, in honor of understanding all perspectives, let's have a public forum and let's really have a dialogue. When do we ever get that opportunity? We want to be separated out from the people who disagree with us. No, we don't. We want to understand, what really do Grotonians feel? You know what I feel, but really have we opened up a forum so really hearing what people who have signed leases feel? They may feel differently now, they may not, I don't know. So I encourage you, please, to open this up to a public forum before decisions are made. I know and respect all of you, and I hope that you will consider that and at least look at the next generation of landowners. I waited 40 years to buy land here in Groton. I'd at least like us to wait until we have a little bit more public input. Thank you.
Time for a couple more?
David Carver, 3080 Route 90, Aurora, New York. I wish to speak a little bit about health, because what's really absent from the whole ESCICE, I don't know how many of you have bothered to spend the time looking through the 1,500 pages of the most recent edition of that. But the discussion of health is almost entirely absent. New York State Department of Health is there for a reason. You probably have heard of Commissioner Martens, who's head of DEC, but how many of you have heard of the Commissioner Indra Shah, who is head of the Department of Health? I've had problems getting any comment from that person. I've written a couple emails and one letter concerning how he grew up in the all-American town south of Buffalo, and because he's of Indian descent, his parents are, he wanted to ensure that we didn't think he was Indian, was educated in India. And so he talked about his all-American boyhood and all that, which I talked about growing up in Niagara Falls, New York, which of course is famous for Love Canal. He doesn't seem very much interested in responding to that, and I think he's cowed. He's an MD, as head of the New York Department of Health. He has a medical doctor from the University, a degree from the University of Buffalo, and is a practicing general practitioner, I believe, prior to being installed as the youngest person ever commissioner of the Department of Health in New York State. He's undoubtedly cowed and hiding under his desk, I guess, because he never understood what demands would be placed on him in addressing this issue. And basically the Department of Health has had no input. None. Look at the S guys. Commissioner Martens said in front, and I was there in Albany when he had spent his 2 or 3 hours before the Assembly Department of Environmental Committee, that they had had significant input with the New York State Department of Health. I say Commissioner Martens is a damn liar. And when Doug Wood of Grassroots Environmental Action foiled the request to see what input the Department of Health, he was put off month after month after month after month. I called him up about a month ago. He finally got a response. They had basically done nothing, almost nothing, and this is what they finally submitted to him. But there's good reason why they delayed him for more than 6 months, which is illegal under New York State law, under FOIL law, by the way. So I think you might consider what it means to be concerned about the health of both yourself and the people whom you represent. Thanks.
Hi, Mary Faith Miller. We are at 372 Hinman Road. Technically, we're in the town of Summerhill, and half our farm is in Cortland County and half is in Cayuga County. But I feel like I have a say here because we're zoned for Groton schools, so if my kid went to school here, he'd be breathing your Groton air and drinking out of the drinking fountain, and so here I am. What I would like to remind you of is that New York State is a very powerful state when it comes to home rule. So that means you guys have a lot of power. You get to decide things, right here on the local level. And it's not something to be taken for granted because we just saw Pennsylvania be stripped of their home rule rights. Their little townships have no say in anything anymore. And that gives me this feeling of urgency. If you put a town ban or a town moratorium in place, you got time to think. Right now we've got legislation in Albany that will bolster home rule if it passes. And we're working hard to make sure that passes. So that would bolster your home rule in this matter. If you wait and permits start to be issued, you will lose your ability to use that home rule. So it seems logical that if you put a ban in place, then you can have much more time for the studies to come out. Because every day I get studies in my email box that are coming out of Ohio, coming out of Wyoming, coming out of Texas, coming out of Pennsylvania. You've got more time to think about these things and consider what is best for the health and safety of Groton. If you don't put a ban in place, if you don't put a moratorium in place, first permit comes out, you lose all your rights. So I would urge you to move quickly with a ban or a moratorium. Thank you.
I'm Dan Carey. I live on Lick Street in Groton. I'm here to speak against a ban being imposed in the town. I'm a farmer, and at this time the town has a local law in place, right to farm law. Depending upon how your ban, if you were to implement a ban, how you would write your ban could severely impact my farming operation in terms of truck traffic, various ways. And I wouldn't be the only one in the town impacted by a ban. You have logging industries, depend upon trucks, number of trucks to haul logs. You have gravel business, which has a large number of trucks. And even if the Groton were to impose a ban, you wouldn't allow the traffic from the gravel to go from the gravel bank to a drilling site, which would put a huge restriction on that gravel company. So I think you're going to have to take your time and I think there's a lot of time. There's 3 to 5 years here. I think we're just in too big of a hurry to get a ban in place. A moratorium, the DEC. The DEC, I think, serves as your moratorium at this point. And to put a ban in place is foolish. It's foolhardy to take that action now. You've got permits, maybe permits issued this year. They're not going to come across in the New York like Attila the Hun. Maybe a couple drillers down there. It's not going to go that fast. They're in Ohio, they're hydrofracking in Ohio, and they're having success out there from what I read in the paper. So I just urge you to take your time. DEC is trying to do their job, and they're the best in the country as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jackie Spoon. I live at 520 West Groton Road. I also own a house in the village of Groton. In 2009, I bought my farm on West Groton Road. Between 2005 and 2009, I served the village of Groton as the Environmental Management Council member. And I came and represented the town of Groton as well because it was unrepresented at the time to the EMC. When I left when I finished representing the village and the town for the EMC, I was very pleased that the town had decided to table decisions on hydrofracking at the time. I was at that time very concerned about the chemicals that are being put into the wells, the hydrofracking, the wells. And I was very concerned about wastewater, open pits. A lot of those things have been discussed today, and I don't want to get into it. I just really want to suggest that continue tabling your decision. Consider strongly a ban on hydrofracking. I've read many of these really poorly written leases, trying to find a property that did not have a lease was very, very difficult in Tompkins County, and I wanted to live in Tompkins County, and I wanted to have a farm in Tompkins County. There are a lot of legal problems with these leases that people have signed, and I think that those legal problems are going to become all of our problem if we allow hydrofracking under these leases as they are written without a lot of stipulations by our local governments. Thank you.
Jamie, do you have a lease?
I do not have a lease. I was lucky enough to find a property that didn't have one. However, my neighbors do have leases. I have not been able to read them, and I'm afraid to read them.
My name is Jennifer Schwade. I live in McLean. I just wanted to respond to some of the things that have been said tonight. In terms of the amount of time that we have to make a decision, that is under the DEC's control and New York State's control. And they are not, the DEC is not my elected representative. They are appointed or whatever. You are elected representatives, and you can help us decide what happens in Groton, and we are looking to you to help protect us from some of the effects of fracking. You can write a ban specifically for hydrofracking. You know, I know that there are dairy industries here, I know there are farmers, I know there's logging, I know there's gravel. None of that needs to be affected. None of that needs to be affected by any legislative action that you would take to protect us from the chemicals and the water pollution and the air pollution and the noise pollution that would be a result of hydrofracking, which would be on a scale that none of us have ever seen in terms of the industry that would come to this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening. Joanne Cipolla Dennis. I live at 964 West Striding Road in Freeville.
Louder, please.
In Freeville. I'm a neighbor to you in Groton. Thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. I first came here many months ago asking the members of the board to pursue information to create a banner moratorium on hydrofracking shale in Groton, encouraging you all to look at the same information the towns of Dryden and Ulysses use to understand why it is urgent you act to protect all of the citizens of Groton and the surrounding neighbors like me and Dryden who will be so negatively impacted in irrecoverable ways. Most people who lease their property for drilling have no idea of what actually takes place the moment the lease is signed. All rights to decisions made about changes to that property in any way must go through now the approval process of the leaseholders. To add to the house, to build a garage, a pool, a shed, or to plant crops is now at the mercy of the billionaires like Mr. Anschutz, who now owns the rights to the farm. The homeowner's insurance will be questionable at best, and mortgages are in jeopardy of being called at any moment, not only for the farmer who leased, but any homeowner who is nearby will suffer the same financial problems. No bank is going to give mortgages on land close to drilling sites and on leased properties. It's a bad investment. People cannot live on properties even close to drilling. The air is the first thing affected. Tens of thousands of diesel trucks, not a few, will be on the roads at one time. Diesel exhaust, otherwise known as benzene, doesn't dissipate in this quantity. It mixes with particles in sunlight, creating ozone. Ozone and benzene, especially in combination, are lethal to all living things. Cancer is a trade-off for drilling methane. It is not a could happen kind of thing. It is a who and when type of thing. No one will be safe from air contamination since we all breathe. When I understood the cause and effects of smoking and secondhand smoke containing benzene, the primary carcinogenic chemical causing lung cancer and diseases like asthma, to anyone subjected to the smoke, I had to stop. I could not live with the fact that I was causing my family and animals deadly harm. Allowing drilling by not banning is like agreeing that although you know smoking is deadly, you will promote it and have those people from out of state come into our town and make every man, woman, child, and animal smoke with every breath they take. To say that fracking can be done safely is like having faith in the EPA, the DEC, the USDA to protect our water, land, food, and air. A dangerous notion, proving nearly every day somewhere in this country people die from illnesses brought on by the industry that makes us breathe, drink, and eat things that are not safe for us. Those who feel it's their right to do with their land as they want, I happen to agree to a certain point. I agree until it's harming someone else or the community or my nation. Fracking shale is one of those things that will break America's future. It is done for the wrong reasons in areas where people live, and then are forced to abandon everything once drilling begins. Agreeing to frack your property is agreeing to move. It's as simple as that, except that all your neighbors have to go too. And your conscience goes with you. That is a trade-off for production. Drilling for methane by fracking shale is being looked at as a crime. How else can it be defined? To create a contract with a multi-billionaire and many from foreign nations who force all our neighbors to not only forfeit their gas, but to forfeit it at a price determined not by the landowner or the owner of the gas, but by the billionaire and the state. To force me to sell what is mine against my will is un-American and is reason enough for me to fight this until the law of compulsory integration is eliminated. To force us all to subject our health to our homes, our lives, businesses, and our food, air, and water to extreme negative health effects so a billionaire can rape us all is unconscionable to me. For you to not ban industrial drilling and protect the public before all else leads me to ask you why. Who are you really protecting? Is it that some may have leased their land hoping to make a killing? I use the word intentionally. Who in your family are you willing to give up? What animal are you going to watch die from drinking from the stream? Which grandchild will it be that is worth all the money those billionaires will make from sending the gas they take off your land to Russia, China, or Japan, who already owns it? They are all now the owners of that gas, so supporting natural gas is like saying I'm willing to contaminate my land, air, water, community, give up my health, happiness, home, move to God knows where, so a foreign company can drill my land and send it all to another nation. What kind of sense does that make? It's all about the money, make no mistake. It has nothing to do with energy independence and everything to do with national security of this country, and the fact that in the big picture, the global plan for America is for other countries to own our national resources and make America the global gas station for the rest of the world. America's destiny is in the hands of farmers. They can frack and add to the collapse of this nation, or they can choose energy independence, grow sunflowers and other biodiesels, use diesel fuel tractors that already have power and power and fuel their neighborhoods with what they grow. It's being done all over the world and in many parts of this country already, but the gas industry does not want you to know that. A farmer who plants the seed that not only fuels their own equipment, but also is a feedstock means that they have eliminated the two most costly purchases from their cost, food and fuel, and they can also raise enough fuel to create their own energy independence as far as electricity goes. A farmer growing an acre of sunflowers yields a ton of seed and 100 to 120 gallons of clean fuel. In the past few years, the Bensons in Lansing grew about 6 acres of sunflowers and yielded 850 gallons of fuel. There isn't any reason others cannot do the same. Imagine growing fuel for our school buses and the highway department. These are the things that we need to do to be sustainable, healthy, and happy. We can all win here. If you do not act to ban industrialization that fracking shale brings, we all lose. There is no reason to wait any longer. I have a check here for Buried Treasures Organic Farms. Doug and Mary and Rachel, you all know them. They grow our organic food, and they grow it right here in Groton. Oh, I think they're on Salt Street Extension, not too far from town, and I hope that you all have a chance to get some of their stuff because it's really great. They grow our food for us, and we want them to continue, but if fracking is permitted here in Groton, I cannot continue to support them, and they understand that. They deserve the business. I appreciate knowing where and how my food is grown, and it is now up to you whether these young farmers who want to stay here and provide a viable, sustainable future for all of us is in your hands. There is no reason to wait, and I don't really know why you are waiting, but I really would like to know. I don't know who has leased their land here and if that is a factor in your decision, but it should not be. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Andy Crispello. I live at 146 Old Proville Road. I've grown up here my whole life. I've started a small business. My business depends on clean water. Without clean water, I cannot grow the plants that I sell to my customers. To allow any industry that is exempt from the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Comprehensive Environment Response Act, and the Federal Compensation and Liability Act is just frightening. Please consider this ban. Thank you.
Right now, Joan Packard requested that Greg have 15 minutes to speak. But
Okay,
Liz,
my name is Joan
Schneider
Packard,
said,
and I'm going to be doing a presentation with Greg Weiland, and he will be
doing first, and after which I will do the second part of the presentation. Joan Packard. I live at 745 Cortland Road in Groton. And just as an aside, my husband and I own 25 acres of unleased land.
Okay, so I'm Greg Weiland again from Torek Road. And I was elected by the Groton Resource Awareness Coalition to make the presentation of the petition and read a statement. So I'm basically gonna read the statement here, and you will have copies of it. There's a copy in the front. I think you'll get copies. Over the past several months, we've heard many presentations, both here and in the town, on the issues associated with hydraulic fracturing. We've had the opportunity to hear from experts such as Bill Capel, Sandra Steingraber, Deborah Rogers, Bill Paducah, and Don Barber on serious negative environmental, economic, and public health impacts that unconventional gas extraction will bring to Groton. Though we have learned much about the process of gas extraction, we've not yet discussed how the people of Groton feel, though we've heard from some today, to go off script, feel about the possibility of the industrialization of this town. Thus, the members of the Groton Resource Awareness Coalition sought the input of Groton residents on the issue of banning hydraulic fracturing. So we present here to you the results of our first round of petitioning. It represents probably canvassing about a third of the households. If you've ever petitioned or done canvassing, you know you basically find 25 to 50% of the houses, people don't answer the door or they're not home. So this is a small fraction basically of the households. So the petition read that we presented to people and asked if they wanted to sign or not. Reads, we the undersigned believe that high volume slick water hydrofracking for gas extraction threatens our water, our air, and ultimately our safety. We believe that allowing this practice in our community will significantly endanger our health and well-being. Hydrofracking is a heavily industrialized process that in surrounding states has severely snarled traffic, damaged local agriculture, hunting, fishing, tourism, roads, and community economies. We urge the town of Groton to ban high-volume slick water hydrofracking, including water withdrawal, materials trucking, and drilling waste disposal. To date, we have, and I'm giving you a copy here, 627 signatures of residents of Groton who have signed the petition. And as I said, we've only canvassed less than a third of the households and many empty houses that wouldn't answer. So we feel have a long way to go. The number of signatories on our petition is also significantly greater than the number of gas leases held in the town of Groton. From one of our members' search of records of the Tompkins County's clerk's office, we have determined as of April 9th, up to date, 2012, that there are 189 leases still within their standard 5-year term. While these leases may represent a significant amount of acreage in the town of Groton, I don't need to remind you that our democracy allows 1 vote per person, not 1 vote per acre. The vast majority of people in Groton will never receive any benefits from hydraulic fracturing, but on the contrary are at risk for experiencing the significant downsides such as water and air pollution, road congestion. I think about my commute to Cornell is now 20 minutes. It could be 40 minutes, it could be 60 minutes. I can't imagine spending 2 hours on the road to get to and from work. Off topic, off script again, apologize. Road congestion, impaired health, decreased property values, and also increased property taxes to pay for the demands that the gas drilling industry will put on the town's infrastructure. The fact that over 620 residents signed our petition is not surprising when you consider other ways in which Groton residents have expressed their desires for a peaceful and rural character of our town. We have some valuable data from a survey of Groton residents that was part of the town comprehensive plan of 2005, and I know you're quite aware of it, but I'll repeat it here. So there was a survey done in 2003 in the development of the comprehensive plan that was then published in 2005. 97.5% of respondents said that preserving the scenic quality and natural beauty of the area is important or essential. 97.5% of the respondents also said that preserving the rural, peaceful character of the community is important or essential. 81.8% of respondents said that the volume of heavy truck traffic through residential areas is an important and essential issue. And the truck traffic we have now is annoying, but it is nothing like what could happen in the future. And finally, 98.6% of respondents said that maintaining existing roads was important or essential. Thus, a substantial number of Groton residents care deeply about preserving the rural character of our town. And I must add, that's really the goal of GRAC, is to preserve the rural character and the environment of the town of Groton. Because of all our concerns listed above, we're continuing to gather signatures, but we are presenting these now today because time may be short. As bans and moratoria have stronger legal standing before the DEC starts to allow permitting, and we don't know when that will happen. If we pass a ban after the DEC allows permits, the legal issue becomes complicated. We as a town will probably not be able to do anything to control drilling once the permitting begins. If we do nothing, we will be abdicating all control to DEC. And personally, I don't trust them. I don't trust them to take care and think of our interests. And one thing I might mention, that if we pass a ban or moratorium now and 5 years down the road, life is wonderful and they figure out how to frack safely, you can always rescind the moratorium or the ban. It's not permanent. It's not forever. Many municipalities, and that was also off script if you didn't figure that out, many municipalities in and around Tompkins County, including Dryden, Carrollton, Danby, Ulysses, and Ithaca, and the surrounding towns of Summerhill and Moravia have already passed moratoria or bans. We feel it is now time for you, the town board, to take on the difficult decisions and directly address hydraulic fracturing. You are elected to represent and act on the will of the people of Groton. We know that you care deeply about the community. Based on our petition, a substantial portion of the community wants a ban on hydraulic fracturing and the associated industrialization of our rural landscape. At the end of the day, this is about preserving the rural character and diversified agricultural base of Groton. Regardless of whether or not a resident holds a gas lease, we all have a right to the continued value of our property and the peaceful enjoyment of our land, free of noise pollution, air pollution, and water pollution. Given the large number of residents who have signed to show their support of a ban, what are our next steps? We would like the board to make a public statement on your timetable for holding a public forum and for making a decision on the ban. We have no idea when the DEC will make their decision. Thank you, and we look forward to your response.
My name is Joan Packard, and I'm going to give the second half of GRAC's presentation, and mostly it's going to be a point-by-point rebuttal about what we think many of the issues that people have who are for fracking. We just want to present some points that we think rebut those arguments. And so I will begin. You'll hear from many landowners who favor unconventional gas extraction in Groton. As several of our speakers have shown, but not tonight, the major lines of argument for such industrializations are deeply flawed, and I will go over several claims. First claim, hydrofracking is safe and the water table is protected. Actually, the long-term integrity of the well casing is a real problem for the industry. Cement cracking and delamination from surrounding rock and soil causes gas to seep upwards from the outside of the wellbore. Such failures are well documented. In their SEC filings, Chesapeake itself admits several risks of hydraulic fracturing, including loss of life, severe damage to or destruction of property, and natural resources in pollution or other environmental damage. The next claim, hydrofracking promotes American energy independence. The facts. Chesapeake and other major gas companies plan to export gas to raise domestic prices. If the transportation infrastructure were modified so that the majority of the nation's trucks ran on natural gas, then the estimated supply of natural gas falls dramatically, by some estimates to as little as 17 years of supply. The next claim, if we pass a moratorium, the town will get sued, and we will be financially ruined and have to raise taxes. Fact. Bans on Dryden and Middlefield were upheld by the courts, and neutral legal experts believe that the bans will not be overturned on appeal. In addition, substantial legal expertise is available pro bono. Claim. Allowing hydrofracking is within the rights of landowners. Fact. We know that some of our Groton neighbors are out there who feel they should be able to do what they want with their land. But we know this is certainly not completely true in the case of Groton, where there is a town ordinance against having junk cars on one's property. If junk cars cannot be stored on landowners' properties, how much more important is it to take special care when considering whether to allow gas drilling on landowners' property? There may be others who feel that they can do whatever they like with their property, regardless of the consequences to their neighbors. However, we feel that this is short-sighted since it can come back to haunt us in the form of environmental catastrophes that could affect all of us as well as our children down the road. Furthermore, there are those in Groton with acreage who have not signed gas leases at all, but yet remain at the mercy of the gas companies nonetheless, due to compulsory integration. If you subscribe to the theory that a property owner can do what he or she wants with his or her property, then why is it that the mineral rights on unleased property can be integrated by gas companies, whether the landowner wants this or not? Claim, hydraulic fracturing process is not new. It has been used since World War II. Fact. The modern instantiation of high-volume slick-water hydrofracking results from a recent combination of 4 technologies. 1. Direct drilling with long laterals. 2. High frac fluids, 5 to 8 million gallons as compared to 80,000 gallons for vertical wells, injected at higher pressures, requiring more powerful compressors. 3. New combinations of chemicals to create slick water. 4. Multi-well pads and cluster drilling. This combination of technologies has been in use for unconventional gas development from shale plays for only 5 to 8 years. Claim, hydraulic fracturing will create jobs. Fact, most of the jobs occur during the drilling phase. Over 98% of the natural gas industry workforce works at a drilling site. Because of this pattern of employment, most towns have experienced a boom and bust cycle in which rapid expansion of the population is followed by a rapid loss of workers from the community. And most of the jobs in Pennsylvania, for instance, have gone to out-of-state workers. Claim, the gas extraction industry will bring resource to the town. Fact, in 2 of the 3 towns studied, the gas revenue generated by drilling was not sufficient to cover increased expenditures by hospitals, law enforcement, and schools. And these are towns in Pennsylvania. In the 3rd town, the tax revenue generated by gas drilling allowed the community to just break even. So that is all I have to say. And I also want to give you a spreadsheet of the petitions that I think Greg has handed to you. This is a spreadsheet.
Thank you.
And these are copies of the petitions. I'm sorry, for the speech that Greg gave. Okay.
Joe, what does VOT stand for?
Joe.
What does VOT or VNT stand for?
Oh, V&T means Village Youth Asylum Petition for both the village and the town. There are some people in the village who haven't signed the plan petition, but so they're not completely,
Well, that's all right. We're all town, okay?
we're all telling anyway. Okay, thank you very much.